Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo. Today, going to be talking some New York Giants with you all in this live stream. I've got the live chat pulled up and I'm ready to just have a good, fun discussion about the New York Giants. So, if you didn't see it today, there was a big interview that dropped with Joe Schoen. He did a one on one with Giants.com and answered a lot of really interesting questions. So, I want to go ahead and react to those quotes from Joe Schoen and really give you my takeaways. Alex can't join me today. He's still in the process of moving. He will be back on the channel tomorrow. But for today, it's just me. And I'll be here for the next 45 minutes or so doing a live stream, hanging out with you all, and talking some Giants. So send in your questions to the live chat. And of course, I'm happy to go through them. But we also have some topics that I want to discuss. First of all, being Joe Shane's takeaways from Joe Shane's press conference that he did with Giants.com. And I want to talk about how this Giants offense looks like it's going to be a whole lot more explosive in 2025. And I've got a lot of great stats to back up that claim. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, we're going to talk draft and everything else in between. So without further ado, let's just waste no more time and go ahead and dive right into these topics. Mark says, "What's up? What's up, Mark?" We've got Justin in here, says, "What's up, Anthony? What's up, Justin?" Jay, salute to you too. Let's get it. Yes, sir. Let's go ahead and do this thing. Giants Nation, let's ride. And yeah, before we go ahead and dive into these topics, I want to share something with you guys that I'm really, really excited about. And if you're not following us on social media at Fireside Giants, this will be new to you. We did post it there, but I want to give you guys a sneak peek of what we just dropped on the Empire Sports Media merch store. You can find the link to that in the description down below. But we added some new merch, being these Let's Ride merchandise. Now, we all know the famous, infamous phrase coined by Russell Wilson, Broncos country, let's ride. Well, we're adopting that. Giants Nation, let's ride. So we've got a couple of shirts and a hat. I actually just ordered myself one of these shirts. I think it's pretty sweet, and I'm really excited to get it and rock it on the channel. But yeah, guys, feel free to go check those out. Link in the description if you want to pick up some Let's Ride merch. I'm really, really proud of these. I came up with that yesterday, and I'm really happy with the way they came out and the way they look. So excited to go ahead and rock some Giants gear in a season that I'm actually starting to feel kind of excited about. I don't know about you guys. I see Mal right here. So glad I'll be able to wear my Giants gear in public next season, Mal. I absolutely feel you. Absolutely true. Last year, man, I wasn't wearing a whole lot of Giants gear. I was getting clowned whenever I did by my buddies, so had to put those in the closet for a little while, let them chill out. But now we get to rock some Let's Ride gear and other Giants gear, maybe with a little bit more pride if we start picking up some wins this season with Russell Wilson under center. Thomas with an interesting question here, and it does tie into the larger topic of discussion of the Giants offense being more explosive. Thomas asks, do you think Slayton can be a viable option as a WR2 with Russ now? Well, I think that Slayton, the way that I view him, is a fringe WR3/2. I think he's a really good WR3 in the NFL. Can he be a really good WR2? I'm not entirely sure what his ceiling looks like. And relative to other WR2s around the NFL, I'd say he's not going to be really strong in that role. Just because if you look at the top offenses in the NFL, I mean, you've got guys like Devontae Smith paired with AJ Brown. You've got T. Higgins paired with Jamar Chase, and all of these top offenses really do feature a 1A, 1B wide receiver duo. So I think that's really what you look for in a WR2 is a 1B situation. And I don't think that Darius Slayton fills that role. So as more of a standard WR2, high-end WR3, I think he absolutely is good in that role. But this is one of the reasons why I do think the Giants might lean BPA at number 3, and that could be Travis Hunter as that 1B to Malik Neighbors are 1A. So we'll discuss that more as we go through. I want to get through some of these questions in the live chat, and then I'll dive into the main topic of discussion. Who would I prefer at 3 if it's not a quarterback? Personally, I do prefer Travis Hunter, but you can't go wrong between him and Abdul Carter. Luis says Anthony got a new hairstyle. I just it just fell differently today. Same thing. Just got out of the shower, put some product in, and moved it. But I think it's just getting long, so it's falling different. I'm trying to grow it out right now. We'll see. I think I'm gonna get it cut soon enough. Charlie said, "What's up, Anthony? What's up, Charlie?" Travis Hunter, ex Malik Neighbors. Sounds pretty nice to me. So far off season so good. Ready for the draft. You and me both, Sean. I'm super excited for the draft, and it's less than a month away, and we've got a lot of great stuff planned on this channel. Janky Boy says, "What's up? What's up?" W says Giants need to draft a fullback with good hands in mid to late rounds. We'll see about a fullback. I don't know if Brian Dable wants a fullback in his offense, but I guess we'll see about that. Bear with me still, everybody. As I said in the last live stream that I did with Alex, we're still getting used to our new stream software. So there might be a couple bumps in the road, but any feedback that you have that you can provide with us would be much appreciated. We've already got 140 of you in here right now, which is fantastic. Thank you all for tuning in the middle of a Monday afternoon. Much appreciated. Make sure you guys are smashing the like button. I see so many chats come in. Thank you all for interacting and engaging with me. This is a lot of fun. But I am going to go ahead and start that discussion soon enough on the main topic. But let's see what else we've got here. A few more. Some of these questions are fun and make me smile. But I'm going to go ahead and start this main topic of discussion. I want to talk about this interview that Joe Schoen did with Giants.com today and really dive into some of my main takeaways from these quotes. So he did talk about Russell Wilson, and he talked about the offense being more explosive, which I thought was really exciting. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up and read it off for you. So the question was this. Going back to Russell Wilson, he's known a lot for the deep ball. How will that help with receivers like Neighbors, Slayton, and Hyatt? Wilson mentioned Hyatt as being untapped. And part of the fun question or fun response to this question here is he really, really highlighted those playmakers and then added a layer to them. So this was Joe Shane's response. Dabes wants to throw it downfield, and those explosive plays are important. You don't have to go 10 or 11 plays. That helps if you get explosives on any series. We've got the weapons to do it, which I think is a key portion of that quote. He says Slayton, Hyatt, Neighbors, Wandale in the slot. Theo can stretch the seam. We've got fast receivers. We've got guys that can get open vertically, get open down the field. And that's one of the things that Russ does well. I'm excited to get everybody in and start developing the offense because one of the strengths of Dable is taking the pieces that we have and developing the offense around those guys. I think Daves will figure out what Russ likes and what he does well and pair it with the weapons at receiver, tight end, and running back. End quote there from Joe Schoen. It's a pretty long one, but I wanted to include all of it because I really think that it is an important quote from Joe Schoen. The way that he kind of dived in and broke down all the different aspects of the Giants' playmaking core. Now, obviously, Alex and I are in agreement. We think that the Giants should add more playmakers through the NFL draft, but Joe Shane's right. They've got a lot of speed on offense. Neighbors, keep in mind, guys, ran a 4.3 something 40. Jalen Hyatt ran a 4.4. Wandale Robinson maybe didn't run the fastest 40, but we all know how explosive he can be with the ball in his hands and how agile he is. Theo Johnson's very fast for a tight end. Tracy's pretty quick. So they do have a lot of speed on this offense and a lot of players that can go vertical and run those 20-plus yard routes. And here are the stats that I was mentioning earlier or alluding to earlier that I wanted to bring up regarding the Giants' ability to be more explosive this season. And I'm going to do a little bit of a comparison and contrast here with Daniel Jones. Last season, Daniel Jones completed just 8 of 31 passes of 20-plus yards. That's only a 25.8% completion rate. He had 266 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. His turnover-worthy play percentage on those throws was 8.3%. Let's compare this to Russell Wilson. He threw 50 passes of 20-plus yards, completed 27 of them, which is a 54% completion rate for 851 yards, 7 touchdowns, and only 2 interceptions. That is a 54% completion rate when the league average is below 40%, and he only had a 1.8% turnover-worthy throw rate. So you're talking about a vast night and day difference in deep passing ability here from the Giants quarterback of 2023 and 4 to the Giants quarterback in 2025. This is why I am so excited about Russell Wilson taking over as the New York Giants quarterback. This offense has the potential to be far more explosive than we've seen in years. In 2022, yes, we had a few explosive plays. Daniel Jones ripped some big runs. Saquon Barkley did as well. And they got some plays from guys like Slayton here or there. But it's completely different now because relying on those couple of breakaway runs here and there is honestly not nearly as sustainable as having a quarterback who's deadly accurate throwing downfield with a bunch of speedy wideouts at his disposal. So that's what I'm really looking forward to this season. Keep in mind, Malik Neighbors led the NCAA in deep receiving yards and touchdowns in 2023. Last season, he only caught 7 passes, 20 plus yards downfield. That is a complete misusage of an elite skill set. Now, he received 27 deep passing targets both in that dominant collegiate season and last season. The problem was in his collegiate season, he had Jaden Daniels throwing him the football, and that ball was pinpoint accurate nearly every time. Last season, he only caught 7 of 27. The throws were inaccurate, they were poorly timed, poorly placed, and oftentimes into double coverage. So, therefore, Malik Neighbors, even when he was open downfield, the ball wasn't catchable. That's the big difference. Neighbors had a phenomenal rookie season, over 1,200 yards, close to 10 touchdowns. He was spectacular, but there was a lot of meat left on the bone for him. There were a lot of big explosive plays out there for the taking that Daniel Jones, Tommy DeVito, Drew Lock, and Tim Boyle simply failed to capitalize on. So when you're looking at this Giants offense entering 2025, you know it's going to center around Malik Neighbors. It's going to revolve around his skill set. But he has such a versatile skill set. He's explosive with the ball in his hands and running after the catch, and he's ultra explosive in his deep playmaking ability, which was just barely on display last season. And that's where Russell Wilson comes into play, and that's where he makes a major, major impact. So this offense, I think, is going to be a lot more explosive this season, and I just can't wait to watch that unfold. That's the reason that I'm actually excited to watch Giants football this year. Can you guys believe it? I felt so apathetic entering this offseason. Halfway through last year, honestly, being frank with you all, at the start of last season, I was apathetic. I knew that the Giants weren't going to be a good football team last year. You could check the receipts if you want. I projected a 5-win season for them at the most. They ended up only winning 3. So I had every right to be negative going into the season. But man, I wasn't even fazed when it went as poorly as it did. Yes, I was frustrated and I was angry, but I expected this. I'm tired of expecting losing football. But I'll tell you what, guys, with Russell Wilson stepping in here, the solid group of playmakers that the Giants are building and the upgrades that they made on defensive free agency, I'm not saying that I think this is a playoff team. I'm not saying that I'm ultra excited to be a competitive force out in the NFC. But yeah, I am excited for this season for once. I think that this is going to be a fun one to watch because the Giants have a quarterback that can hit some of these deep shots and maximize some of these playmakers. So finally, I'm feeling good and excited. Giants Nation, let's ride. So that's how I'm feeling. And now I'll get back into the chat. I see a lot of chats coming in. Appreciate you all engaging. I'll go ahead and go through some of these in a second here. ETC says, "What's up? What's up, ETC?" Here's a good question from Bowman. What do you do with Hyatt if we draft Hunter, or what do we do with Kayvon if we draft Abdul? So I think it's a little bit tricky because, yes, you have to reshuffle the depth chart. I don't know why that keeps going away. There we go. Let me keep that up there. Again, guys, work with me. New software that we're trying out here. So what do we do with Hyatt if we draft Hunter? Well, to be completely fair and honest, we didn't do a lot with Hyatt last year without Travis Hunter. So I don't really think much changes for him. I know Russell Wilson expressed excitement to kind of tap into Hyatt's potential. He referred to him as an untapped player. I do agree with him, and I think there is a lot of potential being left out there for Jalen Hyatt. However, I think Russell Wilson would be even more excited to untap the potential of a guy like Travis Hunter. So if you do get Travis Hunter, Hyatt, I think, just becomes a backup. Neighbors missed a couple games last season with a concussion. Slayton's missed games throughout his career here and there. Wandale has had some injuries in the past. And Travis Hunter, if he's playing both ways, you know that the probability of an injury is high. So I don't think you move off of Jalen Hyatt. I don't think you trade him. I think you hold on to him and you keep him as a backup. And when everybody is healthy, you find ways to work him in. Maybe you're playing a team that is vulnerable to deep shots. Now you want some extra speed on the field. Now you throw Jalen Hyatt out there. Maybe you work Jalen Hyatt in the slot sometimes when you really want to stretch things vertical. There are ways to get guys on the field. So while the idea of trading these players away might come up, I think that it's better that the Giants maintain their depth. Somebody left a comment on yesterday's video that I posted. Thought it was a great comment. You know what? I actually want to pull up that comment and give this commenter, this Fireside Giants commenter, credit because it was a good one. Let me see if I can find it here. What did they say? All right, I'm not going to be able to find it right off the bat like that, I don't think, but it was a great comment, and to paraphrase, basically saying you're only okay, here it is. I actually did find it. From Captain America 3074. Thank you, Steve Rogers. Says offense wins games, defense wins championships, and you're only as good as your backups. So I really liked that comment, and I think that's relevant to this question from Bowman here, because yeah, you're going to stack talent at these positions. If you draft Carter, now you've got a little bit extra talent on the edge, but you're only as good as your backups, right? Injuries are part of the sport of football, and depth is so crucial. Same thing on offense with Jalen Hyatt. Your backups are important. They play a crucial role over the course of a season. If you all remember the likes of David Tyree, guy was a great special teams player, barely played on offense. Super Bowl 42 comes around. Some guys are banged up. He goes out there, makes one of the greatest and most historic plays in NFL history. That's because he was a really solid backup. Nowadays, Giants fans might be like, trade that guy. He's not even seeing the field. No, there's always a role for these backups, and they do play a crucial role, especially down the stretch of a long season. So I think that's the point that I'll make there. I think that Kayvon and Abdul can rotate in with one another. I think Abdul has a lot of size and strength where he can move to the interior as well. Plus, he's got experience as an off-ball linebacker. You could find places to put him on the field, and you can keep Kayvon on the field as well. And with Travis Hunter, he's not always going to play offense if he does want to play both ways. So there will be opportunities for Hyatt to get out there. The Gunners says, yo, what up, my boy Tony? What's up? My best friend's name is Anthony, twin. We call him Twan, LOL. I actually used to have a friend of mine in college who would call me Antoine, so funny enough. I hope we take Hunter and Dart or Abdul and Dart or get Cam Ward or Cam or Ward with trading back up to get a wideout or O-line D tackle. Yeah, the problem is with Cam Ward, I think the Giants would have to trade up to get Cam Ward. And then I don't know how much draft capital they would then have to trade up and land somebody else like a wideout or O lineman or D tackle. They might, if they do trade up for Cam Ward, there's a chance that they're not picking again until pick 99. They might have to give up their second round and third round pick and then maybe just hold on to that late third. So, but your idea here of taking Hunter and getting Dart, I mean, that is exciting. Or Abdul and Dart, that's exciting to me. And obviously, Alex and I have talked about that many times on the channel. If the Giants don't take a quarterback at 3, there are opportunities for them to land a quarterback elsewhere, either by trading up or even waiting until the developmental rounds. The beauty of the Russell Wilson signing, they can take a quarterback. They don't need to take a quarterback. Very crucial, very important. Durant says, sup, Anthony, what do you think about trading down for a 2026 first in order to trade up for a QB next year? Yeah, I think that trading down is a little tough for a team coming off a 3-14 season that needs to buy wins this year to save jobs. So even if, from an objective standpoint, there are reasons to be excited about that idea, but I think that realistically, this team is not situated to trade down. Now, the only way that I would entertain it is if we get that 2026 first round pick and keep our eyes on a quarterback next year. But the problem is in this draft class, when you're sitting third overall, you've got an opportunity to get 2 potentially all-pro impact players, Hunter and Carter. When you trade down even 5 spots in this draft class, you're not getting that sure thing anymore. You're getting a good prospect. This is a strong draft class in many ways, but it's not top heavy. There's not all pros sitting all atop the board like there were last year in the 2024 class. So I think that you run a major risk by trading down, especially if you trade down far enough to get that 2026 first round pick. So I just don't know if it's something that the Giants regime would be into right now. Jay says my audio is really low. Let me see what I can do about that. Again, bear with us, dealing with the new stream system here. Output volume is all the way up, so I'm not entirely sure what the issue is. Let me see if it's my microphone. You all leave me some feedback. Let me know if that sounds any better. Appreciate it. Somebody else saying audio low. Let me see what I can do here. Do appreciate the feedback, though. Gonna do what I can to try and optimize this experience for you all. Let's see. What other good questions we have? Go Anthony, you and Alex Elizabeth. Who is Alex Elizabeth? Alex Wilson. But appreciate you anyway. Danny says, lunch break, my guy. Thanks for asking. How about you, Danny boy? I'm doing great, man. Happy to have you joining me during your lunch break. Appreciate you. Um, let's see. What else do we got going on here? Hmm. Let's see. Samuel says, hi, Tony. Samuel Fountain, an OG Fireside Giant supporter. Do once again appreciate you tuning in here. Let's see. Better now. Okay. Appreciate you. Volume is good. That's good to hear. Travis asking, what would a Micah McFadden contract look like? This is a great question. And obviously, I did discuss recently, I think in yesterday's episode or 2 episodes ago, talking about the cap, how extending Micah McFadden could actually free up a little bit more cap space for the Giants this season. Now, what a contract would look like for Micah McFadden is interesting because I think it comes in at a relatively cheap price point. And I think that price point would be under $10 million. I'm trying to use Bobby Okereke's contract as a little bit of a baseline here because when Okereke signed that contract with the Giants, if you all remember, it was a 4-year, $40 million deal. So he made $10 million per season. But he did have a 130 tackle season and a 150 tackle season in his final 2 years in Indianapolis. Right now, McFadden has back-to-back 100-plus tackle seasons, but that first season does stand out as not being quite as strong. Let me go ahead and pull up his stats, use that as a comparison. So he had 59 tackles, then 101 and 107, and he's missed time due to injuries in each of those first 3 seasons. So for Okereke, when he hit the open market, he had back-to-back fully healthy seasons, plus 130 plus tackles in both of those seasons. I think that the amount of money that he made is far more than what Micah McFadden would be looking at. So if we're using that as a baseline comparison, I would say McFadden comes in at 8 million per season or less. And for me, I think that's a pretty solid price point for a guy who just gave you 101 combined tackles in 23, 107 in 24, 3 sacks last year. He gave you 12 tackles for loss in 23, 8 tackles for loss last season, 6 quarterback hits in back-to-back years. The guy is a pretty consistent, reliable performer, and that's a stat line that you like from the linebacker position. And if you sign him now, you are not overpaying. Keep in mind, Okereke got as much money as he did on the open market because in his contract year, he put up a ridiculous 151 tackles combined with 99 solo and 6 tackles for loss. Those were all career highs for him. If the Giants wait until next offseason to extend Micah McFadden, they run the risk of him going into the season. What if Okereke gets hurt again? McFadden's on the field more, puts up over 130 combined tackles. Boom, now you're talking $10 million per season for Micah McFadden rather than projected price point of $8 million or maybe even less per year for McFadden. So that's why I'm advocating the Giants should get a deal done with McFadden sooner rather than later. They'll free up $1.8 million in cap space this season if they extend him this offseason. I think that's a deal they should get done prior to training camp. Go ahead, sign McFadden to a 3-year deal, whatever, 4-year deal, get him under contract long term. He's only 25. He's gotten better each season. And I think that he's still very talented and has a lot more talent left to unlock. So that would be my projection for a McFadden contract. And I think that signing him to an extension is a great idea. So scrolling down here, getting caught up with the chat, we've got a lot coming in. Once again, we still on this new streaming software. I'm not sure how to pull up the super chats, but I am going to go ahead and read the super chat here that we just got from Philip Santana. Philip, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, do you think Russ helps Hyatt? Yes. Russell Wilson is historically one of the best deep ball passing quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. That is an objective truth. I know last season, Giants fans love to say he's a little bit washed now and he regressed. Okay, fine, true. He still had the highest grade of any quarterback on 20-plus yard throws last season per PFF. And if you want to look at the stats rather than the grades, he completed over 50% of his deep passes, which is ridiculously good. He took 50 deep shots in only 11 games, which is a high volume, and he hit 27 of those. He threw 8 touchdowns on 20-plus yard passes. That was half of his touchdowns last year. So for a guy like Hyatt, who hasn't rounded out his skill set, primarily just a deep threat, that's exactly what you want in your quarterback. that is a guy who can get something out of Jalen Hyatt. So great question there, Philip. Thank you so much for the super chat. We have an interesting question here that I want to respond to from White Lotus. Anthony, drafting BPA is a given. What are your thoughts on Will Howard drafted late? Well, I'll just give a little bit of pause there and say I don't think that it is a given. The reason being, the contract that they just signed Russell Wilson to very much is a backup quarterback contract if he doesn't hit those incentives. And if you read about the incentives in his contract, they're pretty difficult to obtain. He has to play a lot of football and he has to win a lot of football games in order to get that 20 million that he could get. He's only guaranteed the 10 and a half. And if you look around the NFL, backup quarterbacks make in that range. Last year, Sam Darnold signed on to be a backup quarterback for the Vikings. 1 year, $10 million. It's a backup contract. This year, Daniel Jones to be a backup / competitive fringe starter for the Colts. 1 year, $14 million. If you're looking at Marcus Mariota, he's making $8 million per season, the backup Jaden Daniels. So technically, Russell Wilson's $10.5 million salary is a backup quarterback salary, which means that they are not out of the market for a quarterback with the number 3 overall pick. Now, I think they're going to go ahead and do what you suggest here, BPA and a developmental prospect later, and I'll give my thoughts on Will Howard, but I just want to make it clear, BPA is far more likely now, and I think probable, but quarterback still is a possibility. I think that's really important to note just because of the contracts. The contracts will tell you everything about the Giants draft plans. So quarterback still is on the table, in my opinion. But Will Howard, I like. He's a winner. I think that being a winner at the collegiate level actually is more important than people give it credit for. I know that oftentimes at the college system, you play in a great program, that program wins for you. I understand that. But I do think every now and then you get a quarterback that comes off of a big time win or a really great season where he carried his team to wins. Being in those moments and in those games, those high intensity situations, they teach you a lot. And so Will Howard just got a lot of invaluable experience learning how to win at a high level. Yes, at the collegiate level, but I do think that lesson on how to win is translatable to the NFL. So just first and foremost, I like that for Will Howard. I also like his acumen, his stature, and his ability to pass from the pocket. I got to dive into him more, and we will on this channel do film breakdowns and dive into him for sure. But I do like Will Howard as a developmental prospect later in the draft. It's just going to depend on where he goes and where the Giants decide to go with the quarterback position in the draft. So we'll see. Let's see what other questions we have here. Alex wants Jalen Milroe as a developmental quarterback. I really do like the idea of Jalen Milroe as a developmental quarterback. And I go back and forth on Jalen Milroe's fit with the Giants. And let me explain. There's a lot to like with Jalen Milroe to the Giants. Here's a couple positives. Brian Dable, as you mentioned in a forthcoming chat, Brian Dable knows how to fix mechanics, if that's one thing that we saw from his time in Buffalo. Josh Allen had all the arm strength in the world, but he was super inaccurate coming out of college because he had poor mechanics. Dable helped him fix those mechanics. Now he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. Milroe coming out of college right now, very inaccurate due to mechanics, but very strong arm. The other thing, Brian Dable loves a quarterback who can run. He doesn't have that right now on this roster with Jameis Winston, Tommy DeVito, and of course Russell Wilson. He's got some pocket passers, which he does like as well. But if you remember that 2022 season that the Giants went to the playoffs, that was easily the best rushing season of Daniel Jones' career. He had over 700 yards and 7 touchdowns. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, Milroe and his rushing ability, I could see Brian Dable falling in love with that. Plus, Milroe has a lot of skill set overlap, like I mentioned with Josh Allen. Not comparing him in talent to Josh Allen. Josh Allen is a better quarterback and was a better prospect. Absolutely true. But in terms of being athletic quarterbacks with accuracy problems, but a strong arm, it's a similar skill set overlap. And it's a similar skill set overlap to Jalen Hurts when he was coming out of college. And as we all know, Brian Dable spent time at Alabama and is a major admirer of Jalen Hurts from their shared time with the Crimson Tide. So I really like Jalen Milroe as a developmental quarterback for Brian Dable. But for Joe Schoen and the New York Giants, here's the question mark. This is a team that needs to win games this season. Do they trust Russell Wilson to win enough games to keep them their jobs another year to where Milroe can actually see the field for this regime in 2026? Or do they get a guy who's more ready-made and can hit the field ASAP? That's not Jalen Milroe. He probably needs a full season to sit and develop. I don't know if the Giants have enough time to wait for their rookie quarterback to develop? That's the question mark. But in terms of skill set, he's a great match for Brian Dable. I stand on that, and I think he makes a lot of sense in that regard. Strider, hire you? Strider, hire you. 120 says, Anthony, we need a starting guard to sign or draft. Plus, I think we need to get a center. JMS needs some competition. Yeah, the second half of this, I think, is really crucial. I mentioned this in yesterday's episode. I broke down the Giants' 3 biggest weaknesses following free agency. And I just lumped interior offensive line altogether. Both guard spots, I think they need a starting right guard upgrade. I think they need some extra depth at left guard. And I think they need competition at center. I totally do agree with you. I think they will draft an interior offensive lineman at some point in this draft. Whether it's in the top 3 rounds, we'll see. Whether it's a more developmental pick later, I don't know. But I do think they will absolutely draft an offensive lineman this year. They didn't draft a single one last year. That was surprising. That was probably unwise. This year, I think they learned from that mistake, and they do add some talent to the trenches. And you also mentioned that you want Jonah Savaiinaea. So do I, from Arizona. And I know, guys, some of you say that we're pronouncing that name correctly. Some of you say that we aren't. I went over to the Arizona website. That's the pronunciation that they gave, the phonetic pronunciation that they gave. Savaiinaea. I might be wrong. I'll find out on draft night if we draft him, and I'll correct then if I need to. Or maybe sooner. We'll see. But busy guy. The realist says, say it with me, hell no to Milroe. I don't know. I get it. I understand, especially because one of my close friends in life is a major Alabama fan. And he said to me, Jalen Milroe is my version of what Daniel Jones was to you. And I said, whoa, settle down now. I don't want to hear that. So that's what one of my friends said. Shout out to you, Carson. He thinks that Jalen Milroe is not it at the NFL level. But I say tools and traits. Tools and traits for Brian Dable. Give him as many tools and traits as he can, while Russell Wilson tries to give him as many wins as he can. I think there's an avenue where Milroe can be an interesting selection for the Giants. So this is an interesting one from Edward Scissorhands that I want to bring up, and also awesome name. He says, Anthony, signing Russ makes it more likely the Browns draft Sanders. So I think Schoen never wanted Sanders at 3. What say you? I think that for the Giants, signing Russell Wilson was protection. They don't know what's going to happen in those first 2 picks in front of them, and they don't know what they think of Sanders just yet. Sanders hasn't had his pro day yet. He doesn't for another week, I think, like later this month. Maybe April 4th, I think it is. It's a late pro day. I think it's April 4th. So I think that they are still evaluating Shedeur Sanders. They want to meet with him again. And this is also really important to mention, and I don't think this gets mentioned enough. I'm going to refer to the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. If you guys aren't familiar with that, I do highly recommend it. It's just an NFL draft podcast, and it's year-round. It's fantastic. It's hosted by Trevor Sikkema, who's the lead draft analyst of PFF, and it's co-hosted by Connor Rogers of NBC Sports. They're really good, and they know their stuff. And one of the pieces of information that they always try to remind their listeners of is coaches get involved in the draft process late. Very late in the process. And I'm talking after pro days is when coaches get involved. That's when they start to look through film and make decisions. This guy fits here. This guy fits there. I don't want this guy. I do want that guy. So with that in mind, I don't think the Giants have their minds made up on Sanders, but signing Russell Wilson protects them because if they decide they do want Sanders at 3 and then he goes at 2, well, okay, now at least we do have Shedeur Sanders. Or if they decide we do really want Shedeur Sanders and he's on the board, they still can take him even though they have Russell Wilson. But here's the other part of it. The Browns coaches are about to get involved with this process too. Maybe initially they're like, we're not crazy about Sanders. Then after his pro day, they meet with him. Now all of a sudden, they're all in on Sanders. Totally possible. So draft boards are going to change dramatically between now and the draft because coaches are getting involved with the process now. So I think that's an important piece of information to keep in the back of your mind here. And the thing with the Browns, if you saw the quote today from their general manager, Andrew Berry, he said that they took a swing and a miss on Deshaun Watson. Calling Deshaun Watson a miss means that they are trying to move on from him. If they're trying to move on from him, they're doing a pretty bad job of it. They traded for Kenny Pickett, and they didn't sign a single quarterback in free agency. That's a disaster waiting to happen. So when you're looking at the Cleveland Browns, the likelihood of them drafting a quarterback just skyrocketed. And if that's at number 2 overall, that's Shedeur Sanders. So yes, the Giants have protected themselves. I think there's a really good chance that the Browns do go for a quarterback with the number 2 pick. However, because Stefanski is a accredited coach with a good reputation, he might have a year here to go ahead, take the BPA, and maybe get the quarterback later or next year. Totally possible. But I will just throw that piece of information out there. There is a really good chance that the Giants, or that the Browns, rather, do take a quarterback or two based on the comments that they made today at the NFL meetings, which are 30 minutes from my house, by the way, and here in Palm Beach Gardens. Thinking about sneaking on over there trying to say what's up to Roger Goodell, but I don't think I can get in, even though yeah, you know what? Maybe I can. We'll see. Gonna bite my tongue on that one, not say too much. Yeah, Michael, addicts for life. I know exactly what you're referring to. NFL Stock Exchange. I hope that more people in the chat understood that reference. That's great. This is a great question here from Big Blue Wrecking Crew. I am a major advocate of taking a running back later in this draft class, and here's the big reason why. Todd McShay said this is the best running back draft class that he has scouted in the last 25 years of scouting the NFL draft. He's not the only one that feels that strongly. All across the board, Daniel Jeremiah of NFL Network, Mel Kiper of ESPN, Matt Miller of ESPN, Jordan Reed of ESPN, Dane Brugler of The Athletic. I know a lot of these draft analysts off the top of my head. I do a lot of research for the NFL draft, so hopefully you guys do trust my opinions. Lance Zierlein of NFL.com. Every single one of them has very high grades on this running back class. So I know that Tyrone Tracy is really good. I like him a lot, and I think he's going to be a focal point. I know Devin Singletary is a pretty decent veteran pro. I like him a lot, and I think he's a good RB2. But adding more firepower to this offense is never a bad thing. The more firepower you can add, the better. So if you're taking the best player available approach to this draft strategy, you're very likely going to be sitting there and you're going to have a running back as your best player available when you're on the clock at some point in this draft class. And if that's the case, you're going to want to go ahead and take the best player available because some of these running backs, maybe Tracy is a dominant RB1, maybe he's 1B, maybe he's 1A, and the other guy is 1B or 1A. Who knows? But look at the Detroit Lions offense with two great running backs. See how explosive they can be and how they're hedged in their bets against injuries by having two great running backs. Very crucial. I think you get a starter in this draft class at the running back position on day 3. And if you can find starters at any position on day 3, you should take those starting caliber players, running back otherwise. So, yes, I'm a big advocate of taking a running back in this draft class. Wow, we've got a lot of chats coming in. I appreciate you all. Darnell, you live in Port St. Lucie. That's crazy. That's very close to me. Yeah, I'm in Palm Beach Gardens for now. We'll see where I wind up a year from now. What's your opinion on the safety group? Asks Travis. I haven't delved into the safeties too much just yet, but you know what? I'm actually going to pull up PFF because there are a few names that I do like, and I know that once I read them, they'll ring a bell, and I'll be able to give my take on a couple of them. Obviously, Malachi Stark's near the top. A lot of people really like him. I do as well. And I think he's a player who should be a first-round pick. But because it is the NFL draft, safeties always fall, and I could absolutely see him falling into the second round. Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame, I think is really exciting. His ability to break on the football is huge. Nick Emenwari, I think is how you say his name, is that athletic absolute freak from South Carolina, who I think is really interesting as well. And then one late round pick that I want to throw out there for you guys, really, really late round pick, Malachi Moore out of Alabama. Like, I think he's going to be projected to go in the 7th round, but I watched some film on him and I came away pretty impressed. So I do actually like him quite a bit and could see him being a developmental pick for the Giants later on. Strider wants Scatabo. So does Michael. I think that Scatabo is a really exciting player, but I do have some reservations about his athleticism, and I wonder if that's going to be somewhat of an issue for him, at the next level. But guy's a gamer, absolute beast in many ways. MJ's in Boynton Beach. We got a lot of Giants fans here in South Florida. We might be shaping up to have a Fireside Giants fan meetup in South Florida soon enough. If we get a lot of people who keep saying that they are going to go ahead or saying that they are living here in South Florida, and if you all want to go ahead and do a Fireside Giants game meetup and watch party, maybe we'll work hard to get that set up later on this season. Stay tuned to the channel. It should be fun. Greetings from the UK from G-Men 2011. What's up? Appreciate you. Zeno is saying Graham Gano just got re-signed. Is that true, everybody? Can I get some verification on that? That would be really interesting. I thought he was a cut candidate, if anything, not an extension candidate. Let me check, see if there's anything. Oh, wow. This is actually big news. The Bills have ended contract talks with James Cook. They're on to the NFL draft. Interesting. I could totally see him being a draft day trade. That would definitely be interesting. I'm not seeing anything here for Graham Gano. Anything? Graham Gano? I don't know. Maybe the facts were wrong there. I have not looked into Seth Hennigan from Memphis yet. I will check him out though and add him to the list. I do try whenever you all suggest somebody in the chat. I try to go ahead and add them to my master prospect list. Go through those prospects and watch some film. Travis asks, should the Giants throw a minimum contract at Keenan Allen? He was solid last year, and I think he will help mature this wide receiver room. Yeah, from what I've read, Keenan Allen has two destinations in mind. He either wants to continue with the Bears or he wants to go back to the Chargers. I don't think he's interested in coming to the Giants, and I also don't think he makes a ton of sense for them. I think that they need to get a younger, more explosive talent to pair with Malik Neighbors. Yeah, I think he can help the wide receiver room mature and develop, but I actually really do like Russell Wilson to help the wide receivers do that. Russell Wilson has always been a great locker room leader, in my opinion. And I think that he's helped a lot of young guys really acclimate to the next level. So I think Russell Wilson is going to have the biggest impact on those wide receivers this year. So we do have another super chat. Once again, apologies, can't pull that up right now, but I will read it off. The Realist 718, thank you so much for the super chat, says, I heard a podcaster say their pro comp for Hunter was Odell. In my opinion, I thought he was drunk. What's your thoughts / pro comp? You're from Central Florida, The Realist. The Realist. I used to live in Central Florida for college. I went to Stetson University in DeLand, Florida. Spent a lot of time in Orlando. So I do really like Central Florida. And I actually maybe might move to Central Florida soon. We'll see. Things might be in the works, but that's awesome. Shout out to all the Floridians in the chat. Crazy. And the people from the UK as well, and everybody else all across New York and everywhere else. It's really cool always seeing where you all are from. In fact, if you're listening, comment down below. Where are you watching this live stream from? I'm curious to know. Always so cool to me that Fireside Giants has this community that just stretches all over the place. It's fantastic. But my pro comp for Travis Hunter, I don't know if I have one just yet. I think it's really, really tough to tell. His ball skills are ridiculous. That is his best trait. If the ball is anywhere near him, he's going to get his hands on it. And I've never seen anything like it for a guy his size. But that's the thing. He is a bit undersized. So I don't know. He's not this elite route runner, so I don't want to say he's like Stephon Diggs. I think that he has the traits to be an elite route runner, but he's just not polished in that regard. He's got ridiculous straight line speed. I don't love the Odell comp, but I don't hate it either because Odell, for his size, was able to make jump ball receptions and contested catches that just seemed unrealistic for a guy his size. And I think that trait is similar to Hunter. But the other stuff, Odell was a superior route runner. I mean, he was one of the best route runners in the NFL, and Travis Hunter just isn't there in that regard. But from an athletic standpoint, it could be interesting as a comparison as well. So I don't know. There's a few ways that you can look at it. I don't have a pro comp myself personally nailed down for Travis Hunter just yet, but I'll tell you, anytime I do watch the All-22 for the Colorado offense, all those wide receivers really pop off the tape for sure. LeJohntay Wester, that's Alex's favorite late round prospect. He stands out too. But I don't know, man. I think Hunter is just something special. So I don't think there really is a pro comp for him because nobody's done what he's done at the collegiate level. We'll see if he just does it at the next level. Should be interesting. Christian, yes, we are minus 4.5 million in cap, but that's an effective cap. But the Giants can restructure somebody and easily get that going. Philip says Tampa Ant. Nice. Tampa is a great area. I was just there a couple weekends ago for spring training for the Yankees, some stuff with Empire Sports Media, meeting up with the Fireside Yankees crew. We had a blast. Tampa's a lot of fun. Travis over in Jacksonville. I did go to a Giants-Jags game a couple of years ago. They won that game. I'm sure you all remember the stop at the 1 yard line. That was a fun game. That stadium, not my favorite that I've been to, but the food, surprisingly good. Central Heights or Sterling Heights, Michigan. Got New Yorker, Connecticut, Australia, Lucas. That's awesome. We've got Mr. President over in Yorkshire, UK. That's cool. Big Blue from Miami, says Christian. New Jersey. Michael's getting married in Orlando next year. Congratulations to you. Rochester, New York. Family's from Brooklyn. My mom is from Brooklyn. Bradford, UK, Connecticut. Wow, Fireside Giants really is international, isn't it? Travis says you were at that Jacksonville game. Yeah, listen, next time I go to a Giants game, whether it's in Florida or otherwise, I'm going to let everybody know ahead of time. I would love to meet some more of the Fireside Giants crew. I have been recognized at a couple New York Giants games by Fireside Giants viewers, and I've had the opportunity to speak to a few of you. Man, you're the best. I love Giants fans. Giants fans just are the best, and especially Fireside Giants fans. You guys are awesome. I love this community. These viewers are great. But yeah, that game was a blast. And next time I go to a game, I will make sure to let everybody who views the channel know. So hopefully, we get the opportunity. I can meet you and thank you for your support in person. I would love to do that. Travis makes a good point. Odell was really strong for a wide receiver of his size, and he was a 1% athlete. Absolutely true. So I don't think it's the best comparison, but again, I don't think it's the worst because of the ball skills and contested catch ability. W. Wister says, Anthony, I'm currently in Jacksonville, Florida. I get flack for wearing my Giants gear at work. I don't know about it. My first live game was in 1976 with my dad and grandfather. Wow, that's an incredible, really special experience. And hey, I get flack for wearing Giants gear too. They're going to give us flack. But you know what we say to them, especially in Jacksonville? 4 rings. Jaguars fans have 0. Can't talk to us. And hey, I'm always proud to be a Giants fan. It's been tough these past few years. They're really bad. But my Giants pride is undying. I've got to watch my team win Super Bowls, and that's an absolute blessing. A lot of Floridians here. This is amazing. Champa Bailey is a pretty good comp for cornerback. That's pretty interesting. Steven was at that game too. Slayton scored a touchdown right in front of you. That's pretty cool. That t-shirt I'm wearing reminds me of the Victor Cruz Bape special edition t-shirt that said to the victor goes the spoils. I always want to get one, but I can't find them. I've actually never heard of that, Charles Barkley. I don't know what shirt you're talking about, but Bape is a cool brand, and that shirt sounds pretty awesome. I'm going to have to keep that in the Rolodex, go check that out later, and maybe go get one of those. But this shirt is from this company, Homage. This is actually a shirt that a friend gifted to me, but then later on, I think Homage saw me wearing it on the show. They sent me a couple of other shirts for free, and Homage is a great company, and this shirt, super comfortable. Can't recommend this brand enough. They've got some really great Giants gear. So before we get back into the chat, I want to bring up some more of these quotes from Joe Schoen that he had today. And if you all didn't see them, we did post some of the key quotes over on our social media channels at Fireside Giants. So do make sure you go ahead and take a look at what we're posting, because we try our best to post all of the top quotes and news and everything, all Giants content on the Fireside Giants social media. So here's one of the quotes that we did post today. This was from Joe Schoen via Jordan Rannon, I think it was. He said, quote, "We could go any position, so we're not ruling any position out," referring to the number 3 overall pick. And I think that's obviously a very important quote, because you never want to see a GM rule anything out this early in the process anyway. But, there are certain moments where a certain GM might say, yeah, well, we've got a good idea of what we need to target here. And because of the needs on the roster, you know what they're going to target. But I actually do believe Joe Schoen in this instance, where he says we're not ruling anything out, because signing Russell Wilson puts all of the options on the table for them. They can pick from just about anybody, I think. So very great quote to hear, and very great situation for the Giants to be in. All options are on the table for them with the number 3 overall pick, as they should be. Now, here's another quote that Joe Schoen had about Russell Wilson, which I found kind of interesting. He said, "I'm just excited to have a guy in the building with as many skins on the wall as Russell Wilson has at the quarterback position." Obviously referring to how good of a quarterback Wilson has been for so long. Guys, we are talking about a future Hall of Famer here. That's so exciting. The Giants have a future Hall of Famer under center. I know he's not the Hall of Fame player that he was, but he's still a future Hall of Famer. Nonetheless, I am giddy about this. I am very excited. I know not every Giants fan is, but hey, I'm going to wear my emotions on my sleeves and be happy about what I can be as a Giants fan, because they haven't given me a ton to be happy about over the last 5 years. Glimpses of moments here or there. But this is actually a really interesting question here from Stephen RC. Should the game be against an easy W or a division rival? So I think, okay, is the question here, I'm going to think that the question is there any division rival which could be an easy W this season? And if that's the question, I don't think so. But I do think the Cowboys are really on the downslope. I think that they did very little to improve their roster. a really poor job of building up their roster in free agency. Yes, they have the draft coming up. We'll see who they land. But Dak coming off of the injury, I expect some early season rust. And Schottenheimer or whoever as their head coach, I think was a poor hiring, an uninspired one. So yeah, I do think that the Giants could at least beat the Cowboys this year. I pray to God. And you know what, guys? Russell Wilson's never lost a game in MetLife Stadium. So let's see how long he can keep that streak going. Maybe we can keep it going all season. Probably not, but I sure hope so. But to go from a team that won one game in MetLife last year to a quarterback who's never lost at MetLife, well, that's pretty exciting, I think, personally. You know what? I'm gonna pull up this comment. This is a great one from Azzy. It's so refreshing going into the season not having to talk about number 8. Honestly, I agree with you because talking about Daniel Jones the last couple of years, he was just so controversial. Like anytime you said something good about him, you had people hating on you. Anytime you said something critical of him, you had people hating on you. It was just really tough to talk about him. But now talking about Russell Wilson's a lot easier because he's a future Hall of Famer who's won a Super Bowl. So it makes my life a whole lot better. Talking on this channel makes me have a whole lot more fun. So I'm excited. The Lord Servant asks, how do y'all watch Giants games in Florida? I have Sunday's season ticket for YouTube. I get to write that off as a business expense, so that's necessary for me. But yeah, that's how I watch them. And there's a lot of great local bars around here actually as well that are New York owned. There's a place called the Thirsty Turtle in Jupiter, Florida. All Giants gear and Rangers gear are all across the place. Great food, always popping for Giants game days. So there's places in Florida. I think if you look that you can find the games, but of course in the comfort of your own home, I do recommend the Sunday ticket on YouTube. It's very expensive, yes, but I love Red Zone. Red Zone's so much fun to watch, so I do enjoy paying for that. Not paying for it, but I do enjoy having it. Hey, Anthony, if we draft Hunter and he's the number 2 receiver, where will Slayton play? Well, I think that the thing is, I don't think Slayton works in the slot. I think Slayton's very much an outside receiver. However, Neighbors played a good amount in the slot during his collegiate career, and so did Travis Hunter. I think he moved in and out of the slot. So I think what you get there, I know that you think WR1 has to play as the X. Not true. A lot of the times, I mean, look at what the Seahawks are setting up. They just traded away their X, and their WR1 is their slot guy in Jackson Smith and Jigba. And there's been offenses all across the NFL. You don't have to have your WR1 be your outside receiver. They can work and dominate from the slot and move in and out of the slot. So I think what you would get, what MJ just said, Slayton will play left out position. Yes, he'll be the Z receiver on the left, on the outside. That's where he'll be. And then you'd have Hunter and Neighbors, depending on matchups and depending on coverages, rotate in and out from the X and the slot. They would just move in and out of that position. Okay, we've got a great matchup here to get Neighbors in the slot. Let's move him here. Hunter's outside. Oh, Hunter has this great matchup in the slot. Let's move him here. Neighbors is outside. So that's just what it's going to depend on. The Giants are just going to have to get creative, moving their guys around the offense. Slayton will just stay on the outside, but those two are so talented, you can interchange them, just move them around the offense and find ways to get them open. So that's what I think is so exciting about Travis Hunter pairing with Malik Neighbors, with Russell Wilson throwing him that deep ball. Can't wait. Hopefully it happens. We'll see. But we are going to start wrapping up this live stream in the next 10 to 15 minutes. So any last minute questions, chats, anything that you want to send in, make sure you do get those in so I can get through as many of them as possible in the next 10 to 15 minutes. I would stream longer. However, I do have to start getting ready to get to the field and practice and warm up for my flag football game tonight. Start of a new season. I'm very pumped, very excited. We trimmed the roster fat down. We've got a condensed roster. I'm, of course, still playing quarterback and hopefully leading us to another championship. Really hopeful of that. But I think this refined roster is an improved roster, so I'm really excited. But let's go back to talking New York Giants, of course. Ricardo asks, do you see the Giants going after a Von Miller or another pass rusher? Not Von Miller. I think he's too old and too injured and probably ring chasing. Like if he does sign with a team, I think it happens later in the season on a contending team. I don't think he's got a market, so not Von Miller. Another pass rusher, also probably not unless it's through the draft. The Giants have negative $4.5 million in effective cap space right now. I do anticipate they will restructure a contract and open up a lot of cap space, and that is crucial. They can restructure Burns, for example, to free up $16 million. I did a full breakdown on that on the channel if you go back 2 episodes ago. But I'll say I think signing a pass rusher is unlikely. I think they might add one through the draft as a developmental piece. And I think that they really like what they have in Chauncey Golston. I know Azeez Ojulari is a little bit of a big loss as a pure edge rusher, but Chauncey Golston is important because he plays on the edge and on the interior. And the Giants really do value that alignment versatility. So I would keep an eye on Chauncey Golston playing a pretty significant amount of snaps and being a pretty impactful player for the Giants this season. So keep an eye on Chauncey Golston, former Dallas Cowboys player who the Giants really liked being beat up against, so they went ahead and signed him. All right. Yes, Knicks W, big Knicks W. Knicks are clinching a playoff spot, and that's exciting. A New York sports team in the playoffs. And hey, how about them Yankees, man? Whew, they look good. That dude is asking me, you playing Hunter mainly at wide receiver or at cornerback, Anthony? So good question. When we first started getting into this offseason and the process of talking about these prospects, I think I was leaning towards corner. Now I fully lean towards wide receiver. The signing of Paulson and Debo obviously has a lot to do with that. My personal belief in Deonte Banks has something to do with that as well. To make it clear, I want him to play both ways. I don't think the Giants should prevent him. If that's what he wants to do, give him a try. Let's make history. What do we have to lose? We won 3 games last year. Let the guy do what he wants. Let him try his best to help us win. Don't limit his potential. But I think his impact for the Giants more specifically would come at wide receiver because of what they have at quarterback and a deep passer like Russell Wilson, and because I think they want to take some pressure off of Malik Neighbors' shoulders. This offense ranked 31st in points per game last year, and they didn't bring in a single new addition to it. That's concerning. Not a single new playmaker for an offense that didn't score any points last year. You got to get a playmaker in here somehow now, between now and the season. And that could be Hunter. Hunter could step in and immediately give you, hopefully, that 1A, 1B wide receiver combo. How exciting would that be? Imagine the Giants have an offensive rookie of the year, candidate wide receiver in 24, and then another one at wide receiver in 25 with Hunter. I mean, you're talking about an offense set up for success for many years to come. I think that's where he makes most sense for the Giants, and I think that's where he's going to have his most instant, immediate impact. So I would personally stick him in at wide receiver. MJ agrees with me, having him at wide receiver. This is an interesting question from Chris Brown here. Is it possible the Giants trade Wan'Dale if they draft Hunter or just keep him? I don't know if they would trade him because of Hunter. I don't know if Hunter would prompt that. The more realistic reason that I could see the Giants trading Wan'Dale is because, first of all, I think he's got a lot of respect around the league. CeeDee Lamb mentioned, a couple of years ago, he's a really good route runner, untapped potential. I'm sure that there's other personnel and teams that feel the same way. Wan'Dale's a good player, but the more likely reason that he would be traded isn't the Giants drafting Hunter. It's him being in the final year of his contract and needing an extension next offseason. The Giants might say, hey, we've got Hyatt developing here. We just brought in Travis potentially, or we drafted somebody else in the later rounds, or we feel like this upcoming free agency class or draft class has a lot of talent. Maybe we can trade away Wan'Dale at the deadline and get something for him before he potentially walks in free agency. But I only think that happens if the Giants are losing a lot of games before the deadline and they're in a hole and they need to think for the future. I really pray to God that's not the case this year. But that would be the more realistic reason for trading Wan'Dale, is because he's in the last year of his contract and they want to get something before he walks away. But I also think that's why they will draft a receiver in this class, knowing Wan'Dale's in the final season of his contract. High hasn't developed. They need to add some more wide receiver talent. So we do have a super chat here from Jason Benjamin. Appreciate you so much for sending the super chat in. The question is, why do you people are so down on Sanders? I think he fits Dable's offense perfectly. And while not Lamar, he is athletic enough to gash you 7 yards. Yeah, I'm not down on Sanders. Listen, I know on this channel, Alex and I have a lot of great discussions. Alex is not a big fan of Shedeur Sanders. He likes him. He thinks he's a good player. Doesn't like him at number 3 overall. Me personally, if you draft him at 3 and he's a franchise quarterback, doesn't matter where you drafted him, right? Because you got a franchise quarterback. But I also think that he's got franchise quarterback potential. So I like Shedeur Sanders a lot, and I agree. I think he is a perfect fit for this Giants offense. Brian Daboll has really been – everybody says Daboll loves to run these – Daboll loves running a deep ball, aggressive, downfield attack. When have we seen him do that with the Giants? We haven't. He's never called an abundance of deep shots and asked Daniel Jones to push the ball down the field, nor Drew Lock, nor Tim Boyle, nor Tommy DeVito. The main thing that Brian Daboll's offense emphasizes is West Coast quick passing. The main thing that Daniel Jones, I think, actually struggled with was quick passing, processing the field and getting the ball out on time. What Brian Dable really wants is a quarterback who gets the ball out on time. And I've made this example before, but I will make it again. Think about all the times Wan'Dale Robinson caught the ball 2 yards from the line of scrimmage and was immediately tackled. Now think about how he was waiting for the ball to get there, and then he got tackled. Imagine if the ball hit him coming out of his break in stride. Then he turns upfield, and instead of a 2-yard gain, well, that's a 6 to 8 yard gain. So instead of it being 3rd and 8, it's 3rd and 2. That is the thing for this Giants offense that they've been missing. That's going to transform the offense more than anything. Like we talk about how the deep ball being added is going to transform them. We talk about how adding another receiver could open things up and transform. What's really going to change the trajectory of this offense is on time, quick passing. That turns 2-yard gains to 6 to 8 yard gains. That turns 3rd and longs to 3rd and shorts. That's the big difference maker. And that's why I like Brian Dable. Or I'm sorry, I like Shedeur Sanders as a fit with Brian Dable because that's what he's best at. Quick, short passing, get the ball in the hands of the playmakers, let them make plays. Oftentimes, Neighbors and Wan'Dale were open short. They got the ball late and they were tackled immediately. So I'm not low on Shedeur Sanders. I don't hate on him. I see the value, and I think he's a great fit for the Giants offense. I just don't know if he is worthy of a number 3 overall pick. I do think it would be a reach. I'm fine reaching on a quarterback if that's your biggest need. I don't know. I think the Giants can get by with Russell Wilson. I'm really excited to watch him play in this offense too. So, and I think he does that quick passing game well as well. So, I don't know. I think that it's a double-edged sword here, conversation with Shedeur, because I like him, but I do see where people's reservations with him come from at the same time. Yes, limited athletically, good enough, I think. Arm is a little bit limited, but good enough. But do you want to settle for good enough at quarterback is the question. John Kirk left a super chat. John Kirk, thank you so much. Saying, if we take Hunter/Carter at 3, do you see them trading back up in the first for Dart or Shuck, or just staying at 34 and picking the quarterback that falls to you? So I think that if it's Dart, they will try to trade up. If it's Tyler Shuck, they're not going to trade up into the first for him. I'll tell you that right now. Tyler Shuck is a 26-year-old rookie, which is crazy. Way older than, most rookies from last year, he's older than. Guys who came out last year. And a lot of them came out in 2023, he's older than. So I don't think he's going to be a first-round pick for that. And I also think that with Shuck, he's had a lot of injuries and a lot of inexperience. And for him to be at that age already at 26, but still have a lot of room to grow, I just don't think he fits the Giants' timeline. So I don't think he's an option for them early. Maybe later on day 3 if he's there. Dart, on the other hand, is very young, younger than Sanders and Ward, actually. He's young, and he has a lot of room to grow and some decent experience. So that's a player that I could see the Giants really being into. Let's take a shot on him, and let's develop him behind Russell Wilson. That I could see happening. So, I do like the idea of Jackson Dart as a late first-round trade-up, potentially, if you are pairing him with Hunter or Carter. So, but Shuck, I don't think in the first round. And, maybe they can pick at 34, but I think the incentive is if you get into the first round, you get the 5th-year option on that rookie contract, which is pretty crucial. So I could see the Giants absolutely trading up for a Jackson Dart. Here's a great comment. Anthony, love your stuff on here and Bleacher Report, man. Mike G, appreciate you so much. Yeah, guys, if you didn't know, I do live stream twice a week on Bleacher Report on Wednesdays and Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern. During the regular season, that's going to be Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, all at 6 p.m. Eastern. Those are a lot of fun. We do get some engagement there, but not quite like this. This Fireside Giants community, I appreciate you guys so much because I've been sitting here for an hour talking, and I have not had a single second to stop or had to stop for a single second because of how much you guys are engaging with me. That's why I love this community. You're all the best, and I appreciate your support and your interaction with me in every single live stream and every single video. I've been able to talk this whole time and never run out of topics. On Bleacher Report, the following's not as large, obviously. I'm still building the community over there. But hey, guys, check that out on Wednesdays and Friday nights at 6 p.m. Absolutely. You can get some more Anthony Fireside Giants content over on Bleacher Report. A lot of fun over there. Another super chat coming in. And just as a reminder, guys, we are about 2 minutes probably away from closing this live stream. So get in your last minute chats and questions for me, and I'll try and, hit those remaining in the 2 minute drill here, so to speak. Bear 315 with a super chat. Appreciate you so much, Bear. Carter first, Grant or Williams second, top 10 defense. Grant or Williams. So let me look at the draft board and see which Grant and which Williams, just because when I do a lot of talking like this, sometimes I do forget who we're all talking about. So let me go ahead and take a look. Grant and Williams. You know what? I actually have a much easier solution. Let's just search the word Grant. Oh, Kenneth Grant. Kenneth Grant, I don't think falls into the second round. Kenneth Grant, I've seen go in the top 10 in some mock drafts. And I know for sure top 20 in a lot of mock drafts. If Kenneth Grant falls to the second, I think you sprint to the podium with that one. 6'3", 339 pounds, can play nose tackle, but man, he doesn't move like he's 339 pounds. He can move. So really good prospect there. I like him a lot, but I just don't know if he lasts until the second. Williams. So that would be, oh, Tyleik Williams. That's my guy. You know I want Tyleik Williams in the second round. So yeah, I'm all on board for that one. Top 10 defense, I don't know. The big question mark here isn't necessarily the talent that the Giants have. I think rather it's the coaching that the Giants have. I don't know if I believe in Shane Bowen. So I don't know if they're going to have a top 10 defense, even if they do add more talent, just because I'm still questionable about the coaching. Mike said, got 3 friends to watch me on Bleacher Report. Told them to give me a follow. I really do appreciate that, Mike. Like, that means a lot. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for tuning into this live stream and to the Bleacher Report live streams. Really do appreciate you. Stephen RC with a last minute question here. This might be the last one I do unless anything sneaks in here before I close this thing out. But Steven says, which positions in the late rounds you can find the hidden gem more than any others? So I'll give you 2 off the bat. Number 1 is running back. Number 2 is defensive tackle. Actually, I think flip those. Number 1 is defensive tackle. Number 2 is running back. This draft class is really loaded at those 2 positions in particular. Lots of talent in the mid to late rounds. I think that's where the Giants can find the gem. I've identified personally a couple of gems at cornerback that I like and wide receiver that I like. I think at wide receiver, you got guys like Xavier Restrepo in those mid rounds, but that might be a top 100 pick. But even later, obviously, Alex really likes LeJohntay Wester out of Colorado. I think that's a name to keep an eye on. And I think at cornerback, I really like Kobe Bryant, who the Giants did meet with. Very interesting prospect out of Kansas, who's got great ball skills. So keep an eye on him. I think he could be a gem in the middle rounds. Joe Africano with the last minute late buzzer beater super chat. Appreciate you so much for this one. Notre Dame guys, so slight biased. How do we feel about it? Ben Morrison, if he fell to the 3rd round, his injury set him back draft-wise, I think, adds more DBs to the room. Yeah, I actually have done a little bit of research on Benjamin Morrison for an article that I wrote a little while ago, or maybe one that somebody wrote and I edited. But yeah, I like him. I think he makes a lot of sense. One of the things I like about him, he's only 21, young age, lots of room to grow, and fought in a really competitive Notre Dame defense, obviously. So you might be biased, but you also might have a point. Notre Dame had a strong defense, and they had a lot of talent. And I really do like that secondary that they had. They had Xavier Watts as well. Benjamin Morrison, yes, the injury was obviously a problem for him. He had hip surgery, but still talented nonetheless. Good man coverage corner and very young and moldable. If he's there in the 3rd round, I do think if you're going the best player available strategy, he would make sense for you. I believe in Deonte Banks. I love Deonte Banks, and I still think he's going to turn it around. However, I could be wrong. And that's why the Giants should keep adding talent to the cornerback position. You can't bank on guys turning careers around, because if they don't, you might be screwed. So I would like to add more talent at cornerback, and Benjamin Morrison absolutely does make sense. So he is somebody who I would have on the draft board. But yeah, we've hit that 1 hour mark, gone a little bit over. This is a great comment that I'm going to close with from Dylan. Optimistic about this team, but not the schedule. This seems to be the main point of contention that all Giants fans have going into the season. And you're absolutely valid in feeling that way, Dylan. This is a tough schedule on paper that the Giants have. But I'm going to make this point that I made on the Giants Collective live stream on Friday night when I was speaking with The Entertainer. And if you guys haven't tuned into the Giants Collective, really fun. To me, The Entertainer, Bad Dog, and NYG Fangirl, who I'm sure a lot of you know those names or maybe follow them. Maybe you don't, but if you don't, check out those Giants Collective live streams. We have a ton of fun. Really great conversations over there. But what I was going to say is Chris said something pretty similar. The Entertainer said something similar. Like, there's talent on this roster, but this is a really tough schedule, and absolutely right. But I want to point out, yes, the Giants have the number one strength of schedule. That's based on last season. You never know what the season is going to look like. And in fact, I'm going to do exactly what I did during that Giants 2025 opponents. This is where I'm going to close the stream. I'm going to get through this, and we are going to close it. But stick around for this because I think you guys are going to enjoy this one if you're optimistic about the Giants or want to be optimistic about the New York Giants. All right. So let's start off with these 2025 opponents. Let's look in the division. Yes, the Eagles are the team to beat, and they're really tough. That's going to be a tough matchup no matter what. Okay, totally fine. But injuries can happen, and I'm going to keep that in mind for every team. You never know how good these teams are going to be due to injuries. But let's look at the Commanders. Commanders were spectacular last year. They look like a powerhouse. Odds are they continue to improve and get better, and they're really good this year. However, what if we get a sophomore slump out of Jaden Daniels? I don't think it's going to happen. I'm not projecting that it will, but it's possible. Dallas Cowboys are going to take a step back this year. The Giants should take a step forward. Now let's look at the NFC North because that's what's really inflating the Giants' strength of schedule because the NFC North won so many games last year. The Minnesota Vikings just lost their starting quarterback, and they're going to have a rookie, essentially, coming off of a torn meniscus under center. That team is not the 14-win team that it was last year. So that should, yes, their strength of schedule is really high because they're facing a 14-win Vikings team. It's not the same team. How about the Green Bay Packers? They had a lot of fraudulence to them last year, I think. Now let's talk about the Detroit Lions. Yeah, powerhouse in the NFL and the NFC for sure. Got better in some ways this offseason. Lost their offensive and defensive coordinators. Might not be the same team. We don't know what that season's going to look like next year. The Bears, rookie head coach. Don't know what they're going to be. Could be great. Could also not be great. And let's look at some of these other ones. The Saints, think they're getting worse every year. The Patriots, still not a good roster in front of them. The Broncos, what if Bo Nix has a sophomore slump? Let's talk about the Raiders. Maybe Geno Smith, 35 years old. There's a reason the Seahawks traded him. Maybe he's slumping. The Chargers are really good, and I'm gonna say I don't think they're gonna take a step back. But how about, you know what? Back to the Eagles. What about Super Bowl hangovers? Those are a thing. 49ers, they're slumping. They're only getting worse. They've got cap problems and coming off of an injury-riddled season. Next, the Chiefs. Super Bowl hangover? Possible. Sometimes the team that loses the Super Bowl implodes the next year. That's what just happened to the aforementioned 49ers. Maybe the Chiefs have a little bit of a hangover. Totally possible. So that's every opponent that the Giants are facing this season and every reason why you could feel like just because the strength of schedule was high last year, absolutely it was, there's reasons that the Giants could come out on the winning side of each of those games this year. The teams that they're facing this year are not the teams that they were last year. The NFL is a year-to-year league, and everything changes overnight in the blink of the eye. The Commanders last year going into the season were a joke. Going into 2023, were a joke. Going into 2024, oh, they got a new rookie quarterback. Let's see. Going into 2025, all of a sudden they're a powerhouse. It's totally possible that any of the powerhouses can go back to the bottom of the league. Every single year, you never know what's going to happen. And you know what? In 2022, when the Giants made that unlikely playoff run with Daniel Jones, they had the third highest strength of schedule in the NFL that season. They won 9 games and went to the playoffs. So all of that to say, this is the last rant that I want to go on before I close this live stream. I know the schedule is a little bit tough to look at, and the opponents are really, really formidable. This is the highest strength of schedule in the NFL. But the teams on that strength of schedule are not the same teams we're facing this year, and the league changes every single year. You never know. I don't care if the team won 15 games last year. They could win 7 the next year. You just never know. One injury could change the course of an entire season and an entire division for that matter. So let's just take it year by year. And if you are optimistic about the team and the roster and you like it, then be optimistic about the season because we don't know what the schedule is going to look like. You really just can't project these things. Obviously, good teams on the schedule. I'm not going to discount that. But as Steven said, we did say that in 2022, and Giants made the playoffs anyway. So you never know. I'm going to be optimistic because I'm a Giants fan, and I want to be optimistic about the team, and I really like Russell Wilson. But that's pretty much going to wrap this one up. We had over 330 people in here at one point. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate you all so much. I will probably be live again, maybe tomorrow with Alex. If not, definitely Thursday I'll be live. And yeah, I mean, uploads are going to continue here on Fireside Giants daily. You know how we do it. And I'm going to do a film breakdown on Russell Wilson soon on the channel as well. So stay tuned to that. But once again, can't thank you all enough. Really appreciate everybody who did tune in. And this is going to wrap this one up. Appreciate everybody who left super chats and just comments in general. Thank you all so much. And I'll catch you all in the next one. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss a live stream. Comment your thoughts down below if you're watching the replay. Leave us 5 stars if you're listening on Apple or Spotify. And follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, I'll catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.